Good evening. Well, thank you, esteemed guests, donors, faculty, and fellow scholarship recipients. My name is Jennifer Wisely, and I'm a doctoral student studying community college leadership here at NC State. I am honored to stand before you tonight as a recipient of a generous scholarship, the Edgar J. and Ethel B. Boone Adult and Community College Leadership Award, and as a representative of the incredible students in NC State's College of Education. This award has not just helped fund my education, it has fueled my purpose. So to the donors in this room, please know that your generosity does more than fund education. It transforms lives, and I know this firsthand. To Dr. Audrey Jager and the Adult and Community College Leadership faculty, thank you for believing in me, not just with this scholarship, but also in the journey that led me here. Thank you for seeing something in me, even when I wasn't sure it was there myself. Tonight, I would like to share a story of how gratitude, resilience, and giving back have shaped my life, and how these simple acts of kindness we as humans perform have lasting effects. You see, my journey to this moment was not a straight path, nor was it an easy one. In fact, had you told my 18-year-old self that I'd be standing here tonight before all of you, I would have likely laughed, mostly because, like many teenagers, I already knew everything. But the truth is, I grew up in South Chicago in a home where education wasn't a priority. Not out of neglect, but out of unfamiliarity. For my parents, college was uncharted territory. My mother was the only one of my parents to graduate high school, and I became the first of my siblings to do the same, despite being the second oldest. Without the advantage of formal education, my parents had to work 10 times harder just to get by. But by doing so, they instilled in me an unshakable work ethic. And while they may not have emphasized higher education, they gave me something just as powerful: resilience. And that resilience has been my guiding force. At 18, I chose to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, surprising everyone, even myself. But I knew two things to be true. I lacked the financial means to go to college, and I wasn't in the right mindset for it either. The Marine Corps had offered me a path. I would serve my country and see the world, and in return, they would pay for my education. What I didn't know, which again, shocking since I knew everything as a teenager, was just how much it would test and push me beyond my limits. My first duty station was here in North Carolina. I was a helicopter mechanic navigating challenges that stretched far beyond the job description and the physical demands of being a Marine, as I was the only woman in a male-dominated environment. Those 6 years shaped me in ways that I couldn't have imagined. I learned perseverance, discipline, and leadership, both the kind I admired and the kind I vowed to never replicate. And yet, for all the strength the Marine Corps instilled in me, it was one of the least empowering spaces I had ever known. It was those experiences that became my first lessons in the profound impact leaders and mentors can have, both positive and negative, and how gratitude becomes even more powerful when earned through challenges. In those moments, I was grateful for the resilience passed down from my parents. And I never strayed far from the military. In 2008, as I exited active service, I married my husband, Rob, who is also an active duty Marine and is here with me tonight. And with that, I transitioned from one role of sacrifice and resilience to another as a military spouse. Except this time, there was no boot camp, no guidebook, and certainly no recognition. As a veteran, I finally had the financial means to pursue an education thanks to the GI Bill. But now, as a military spouse, I lacked the stability to pursue it. I was fortunate, though. A couple years into our marriage, my husband was accepted into a military program that would send him to the school of his choice, and upon earning his bachelor's, would be commissioned as an officer in the Marine Corps. I saw this as an opportunity for my own education, and so we moved to this foreign, far-off land called Texas, with Texas A&M as his school of choice. Me, I didn't care one bit what school he chose, as I was just excited to have a predictable timeline and access to both a community college and a university in one location, something that is very unheard of for military spouses. I enrolled at the local community college, allowing me to ease my way back into education after nearly a decade away, because let me tell you, math, it's not like riding a bike. I needed help, and my professors were there, willingly guiding, encouraging, and believing in me. It was in that space that my love for learning was ignited. I had a history professor that taught with such passion that I couldn't help but be captivated. An English professor helped refine my writing, even reviewing my transfer application to Texas A&M, and an accounting professor whose enthusiasm for debits and credits seemed almost unnatural. But it was her who sparked my love for accounting, and just like that, my path was set. And because life wasn't crazy enough, we figured, why not start a family too? And so our first son was born at the end of my first year in community college, and our second arrived 2 months into my junior year after transferring to A&M. And if I thought I understood resilience before, nothing quite compares to having 2 kids under 2 while juggling full-time college coursework. But I was grateful I finally got that true college experience, the sleepless nights, the exhaustion, the all-nighters, just with 2 tiny roommates instead of a sorority. But it was through those years that I got to see the profound impact educators can have, and it helped define the kind of educator, the kind of leader I wanted to become. Because leadership, at its core, is simply another form of teaching. It's about more than instruction. It's about setting an example, empowering others, and believing in their potential before they even see it in themselves. I knew I wanted to lead with empathy, validate experiences, and advocate for the underdog. Because when you know better, you do better. That passion and those experiences brought me full circle. In 2016, we received orders to Jacksonville, North Carolina, the very place my military journey began. By this point, I had earned my bachelor's and master's in accounting, briefly owned a business in Florida, and now had 3 sons. And it's okay if you can't keep up with all the moves and kids. I really can't either. But for military spouses, each new move usually means starting over with yet another career. This time, though, I didn't hesitate. I searched job openings at the local community college, and there it was. A position in the business department teaching accounting and entrepreneurship courses. I'm not sure whether life truly sends us signs, or if some things are simply meant to be, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for the next opportunity, and so I applied. Everything moved fast from there. I got the job, and as they say, was thrown straight to the wolves. I quickly learned that higher education gives faculty considerable freedom in designing and delivering courses, and to say that was the complete opposite of my experience in the Marine Corps, where every moment from sunrise to sunset was meticulously planned, would be a huge understatement. Fortunately for me, though, I had a great example to follow. The first course I taught at my institution was the same accounting class that forever altered my path. And if you think for 1 second that I haven't brought that same passion to my classroom in teaching debits and credits, then you're dead wrong. Very little gets me more fired up than a balanced accounting equation. And every time I walk into a classroom, I can't help but think, what if this is the class that forever alters someone's path? Teaching has been incredibly fulfilling, especially because I can deeply relate to my students. Like many of them, I began my educational journey at a community college. And in a county where more than half of our population is military affiliated, most of my students are either service members or dependents, 2 roles I know firsthand. However, over the years, I couldn't help but notice a particular demographic consistently being overlooked, both at my institution and nationwide: military spouses. These individuals, of whom 92% are women, often place their dreams and education on hold. They navigate constant relocations, repeatedly adjust to new careers, and carry the weight of solo parenting, all while supporting their service members, situations I am all too familiar with. And despite these sacrifices, military spouses remain one of the most underserved, underrepresented groups in higher education and career advancement. It was recognizing this critical gap that inspired me to go back to school, a journey that led me here to NC State, to the Community College Leadership Doctoral Program, where I began learning, researching, and exploring how best to lead and advocate within community colleges. When I enrolled here, I came with a clear mission to deeply understand community college leadership, not just the mechanics, but how to advocate and to truly serve. Through my dissertation, I began asking critical questions. How can we design educational pathways that align with military spouses' unique transient lifestyles? How do we acknowledge their sacrifices, validate their experiences, and ultimately make higher education more accessible for all learners seeking opportunity and empowerment? As I entered my final year of the program, my husband retired from active duty, and it was an entirely new type of transition for our family. Tight finances, shifting dynamics, and sheer exhaustion from years of grinding away. And then an email arrived from Dr. Jager informing me that I had been selected for this scholarship. Me. I have spent my life with my head down, working 10 times harder because that's what I was taught. I stared silently at that email for what felt like hours. I was being seen. I was being validated. I can't even begin to describe what that felt like. This scholarship covered my final 2 semesters. It funded my research that is shaping initiatives to make community colleges more accessible for military spouses, giving them not just degrees, but confidence, independence, and a means to contribute to their families, which in turn contributes to our country's overall military readiness by allowing service members to confidently do their job, knowing that their families are okay at home. This scholarship gave me the confidence to continue and the final push I needed. I am proud to say that I defended my dissertation this past February, and I am now Dr. Jennifer Wisely. Feels good to say that. And that I will graduate in just a few short weeks. I've seen firsthand how education transforms lives. It transformed mine. It has empowered the students I've taught, both military affiliated and not, giving them not just knowledge, but a sense of purpose. And that, more than anything, is what keeps me going. Because when we empower students, we strengthen families. And when we strengthen families, we strengthen communities. And that is why tonight I want to acknowledge something important. While receiving help is a gift, being in a position to give back is an even greater one. It has a ripple effect. Because of the generosity I received, I am committed to a life of paying it forward. Education is more than degrees and coursework. It is transformation. It is growth. It is the power to change lives. Just as someone once believed in me, each of us here tonight has the power and opportunity to change someone else's story. To my fellow scholarship recipients, let this be more than just an opportunity. Let it be a responsibility. To our donors, you are not just funding education. You are investing in potential, in leadership, in change. And to everyone here, when the time comes, may we all be willing to extend a hand. Because while it is a gift to receive, the greatest gift of all is to give. Thank you so much.